hate has no place in this city, and I completely condemn the actions of what happened here.
Start by thanking Rabbi Burke and by thanking Danny Siegel for welcoming us here today to the shul. What we see in the door that's behind me is an attack on Australia. That's what it is. When people have said, and there's been some reporting, that no one was physically injured, that doesn't mean no one was harmed. The community here was harmed, the Jewish community in Australia was harmed, and we were harmed as a nation. There were 3 attacks that night, and none of them belonged in Australia. Arson attacks, the chanting calls for death, other attacks and graffiti, none of it belonged in Australia, and they were attacks on Australia. So we've come together today to stand in solidarity with the community here, to say that when someone has tried to say you don't belong in Australia, that in fact it's a community here that absolutely belongs in Australia, that it's Jewish Australians who absolutely are part of the community here in Australia, and hatred has no place in Australia. Anti-Semitism has no place in Australia. The history of anti-Semitism throughout the world is something where what starts with words rarely ends with words. This government, including Mark Dreyfus in the last term of Parliament, has taken the strongest actions Australia's ever taken in making hate symbols unlawful, in making calls for violence and hate speech have serious criminal penalties. But the job of making sure we eliminate anti-Semitism belongs to every single one of us. People should be safe wherever they go in Australia, and the dream of this country is no matter where you come from in the world, no matter what your heritage is, we stand together, we welcome each other, and we do not import hatreds and violence from overseas to life in Australia. That's what living in this country is about. That's why this was an attack on Australia. I'm very glad to see the reports of the arrest that's taken place. There are various legal procedures that will now go ahead. The investigation is being led by the Victorian Police. I've been constantly briefed, twice yesterday, again this morning, by both ASIO and the Australian Federal Police, as well as talking with the Secretary of the Department of Home Affairs and talking each day with Anthony Carbines, the Police Minister here in Victoria. We are providing our full support because what matters here is not simply an arson attack. What matters here is there was an attack on Australia, an attack on Australian values, and we are here today in solidarity to stand together with the community.
I'm very pleased that Tony Burke, as the Minister of Home Affairs, has been able to be here so promptly to send the clearest possible message on behalf of the Government of Australia that the actions here on Friday night, on Shabbat, are condemned by our national government. It needs to be understood that this attack on this old synagogue here in the centre of Melbourne is an attack not just on the Jewish community, it's an attack on the entire Australian community.
The Israeli Prime Minister has put out a statement overnight saying we demand the Australian government take all action to deal with the rioters to the fullest extent of the law. Have you had any communication with the Prime Minister, and what do you make of those comments?
I had a good conversation yesterday with the Israeli ambassador. He rang me. He had heard that I was coming today and rang me to thank me, and he took it as a signal that the government was taking this very seriously. I might add, because it was Shabbat, my wife Sky and I, we hopped on a plane not knowing if we would be welcomed here, not knowing what the community would want, because understandably people weren't answering their phones until evening. And that's why I wanted to make sure that I was just here in Melbourne in place, so that if the community decided that they wanted us to come, we were able to facilitate that immediately.
Well, one question from the Australian Jewish News. What's your direct message to Jewish Australians about their place, their safety in Australia?
You belong in Australia, you are welcome in Australia, and the Australian government has come here immediately to stand in solidarity with you.